Number four, people mixing up issues with price. So the seller debated for 3 days and then called James and said, I'm verbally agreeing to your offer, but I can't sign the offer until you come see the business in person. James goes, and during dinner, the seller tells him that he is excited about the next stage in his life where he can retire. He talks about his best friend who sold a very similar business for $5.7 million. He mentions the number again and again and again. James asks himself, does he not understand my offer is 4.7 million? And the number he keeps reciting is $1 million higher? James wants the deal, so he sharpens his pencil. He decides to revise his LOI by one, nothing, keep the offer where it is and ignore the signal that the seller made with the $5.7 million mentions. Two, call the broker and say companies in this industry trade at 3.8 to 4 times and that the 5.7 number is 5 times and unreasonable. Or three, add $1 million of seller note to the offer and resend. So staying with our interactive theme, what do you guys think? All right, we got some ones, 1 or 3, 1 or 3, 1. 1 or do 2 during dinner. Marcus, I like that. 3 if it's tied to revenue, that's fair. So let me talk through what's happening here, because I put a couple of different concepts in the same case. Are you guys familiar with, if I say like a country club number? Like, hey Marcus, how big is that fish you caught when you went fishing last weekend? It's that big, right? So in that same concept, when people go to the country club, if you're fancy, the local watering hole, if you're not, church, if you're religious, wherever they talk about these things, people compete on the number, right? So you have a business, your buddy has a similar one, he sold his for 5.7. Now you want 5.7. So for the rest of your life, you don't have to tell everybody that you sold your business for $1 million short of your buddy. And there's no rational reason outside of that. So you have to sort of be aware of that, because although it might not be stooped in logic or reason, it's just real like anything else that isn't. The other thing that's happening here is sellers try you at dinner and during meals, and you sort of have to recognize that it's an interview. As you're presenting, I'm going to come show up with a couple $1 million. The seller's trying to figure out, are you easily malleable? Because if you are, you're probably going to screw this thing up, get all my employees fired, and not pay me my seller note. So not everything that you do to be nice to the seller at this stage is in your best interest. The other thing is there's a general difference in between price and structure, and price is price. You can do a $10 million deal, $1 million at close, and I would call that $1 million deal with a bunch of maybe. So in this case, if you like the deal, what I've most often done is put in a seller note. And I'm not going to market it as, hey, you want $1 million extra? Oh, I just put it in a seller note. It's more of a, let me go back and shorten my pencil. The bank's pushing back. Oh, the only way I can do this, if I have to do it, I don't really want to. I can put it in a seller note, maybe drop the working capital $100,000. So you're essentially giving the person their country club number without changing your deal fundamentally. Now, nobody wants to pay the seller additional money post-close, but I think of money coming from a business you didn't own when you started as very different than cash you need to go raise after closing, particularly because seller notes and these deals are going to be so subordinated to the senior note that if you got into a cash strap position, you wouldn't have to cut off the seller note, the bank would. So it becomes a pretty safe option if you need to add a little bit of sugar onto the end of these deals. One is fine. Sometimes I think you just have to stand to your ground. And if the guy told you to fly out to go see him and had $1 million extra on his mind, giving into it could also put you in a precarious situation on the next 20 negotiations you're going to have through diligence on all these items on the purchase agreement and other agreements. And so part of the thing you have to do is sort of think about how the current negotiation will affect all the others. And when you start allowing people to push you, ask you to go spend money and then change up on you at dinner, what does that mean? I mean, I'm dealing with a client now who had a signed LOI a week ago. 2 days after, the seller wants something different. They finalized their second LOI Tuesday, and I don't think they have a seller. Like, I don't know how you're going to get to a 50-page purchase agreement with somebody who changes a 5-page letter of intent.